So the big tax question is this: how do wealthy people keep their money working for them when selling their business, real estate, or other highly appreciated assets without paying hundreds of thousands to millions of dollars in tax? What if we, as business and real estate owners who have poured blood, sweat, and tears to growing our wealth, and who didn't hire expensive tax attorneys and CPAs to map out an exit strategy, knew their secrets? Instead of recreating the wheel, why can't we just model the way they deferred 30 to 50% in tax, paid off debt, funded their next business dream, and most importantly, leave a financial legacy to give to the causes we believe in most? What if their secrets weren't complicated at all, and you just need a guide who is a few steps ahead of you? That is the question, and this podcast will give you the answers. My name is Brett Swarts, and welcome to Capital Gains Tax Solutions.
So, many investors struggle with finding, passive investment, multifamily, syndication opportunities, and education and inspiration, especially with someone who has a track record and is in the space of helping people do just that and buying and selling deals and putting deals together. Our next guest is a multifamily investor, syndicator, entrepreneur, and he has more than 15 years of experience in real estate. He currently oversees strategic partnerships, capital development, and a platform development for Realty Dynamics Equity Partners, which is an investment firm specializing in multifamily acquisition and asset management services. Prior to founding Realty Dynamics, he maintained an instrumental C-level role in managing large operational budgets of $50 million plus and lead large successful tech and operations teams running enterprise IT. So he has a focus on that. He also holds a Bachelor's of Science, Electrical Engineering, Technology from Wayne State University in Detroit, Michigan, and a few others as well from Lawrence Technology University in Southfield, Michigan. He's the host of the Bulletproof Multifamily Mindset Show and also the host of the Bulletproof Cash Flow Podcast. And I want you to welcome our next guest, Agostino Pintus. Agostino, welcome to the show.
Hey man, thanks for inviting me. Appreciate it.
Excellent. Would you give our listeners a little bit more about your story and your current focus?
Yeah, absolutely. So my story starts off as a young kid when I was 9-10 years old, discovered computers, and I had put it in my mind, I'm going to be a technology entrepreneur. That's what I'm going to do, right? And instead of taking that route, I get really good at computers, really good at coding. I was one of those kids at 9 years old, 10 years old, writing code. You fall into the trap, where society says, no, you don't want to do that. You know what you need? You need a job. You need to go work for someone and go do that. Nothing wrong with working for companies. It's fine. But, instead of fulfilling that, or quenching that fire, so to speak, of having my own thing, of doing my own thing, I ended up going the corporate route. And it was successful and everything was fine, and ended up one of the really great role that I had at a really good company. That's where I started out doing real estate a long time ago. At this point, it's over 15 years at this point, doing single family stuff. But, everything is fine. I had the big house, the fancy cars and all that until one day it wasn't fine. They decided to, quote, make a change with the little air quotes here. And next thing you know, they riff you, you're out in the street, right? So, that's what led down the whole 10 dark years. And I ended up going from job to job to job, rudderless. I had no idea what I was doing with my life, because I let that C-level career make me who I was. So I wasn't being my own person. I was the job. The job was me. That's it. And you kind of really have to watch out what you say to yourself, because when some guy walks into your office, hands you the box and says, "Get out," it makes you feel like total crap, especially when you made this guy a multi-millionaire. You made him rich beyond his wildest dreams based on the stuff that you built. And next thing you know, you're riffed, right? You're out the door. And yeah, man, it took some recovery to get to that point, So once I heard about this whole multifamily syndication thing, that changed my whole life. That's where everything changed. That one conversation with a friend of mine who told me about what this syndication thing is and some of the benefits that goes along with it. So I figured I have some real estate experience. I'm going to do that. That's what I'm going to do. At that point, I've been fired from another job. right? It's like I kept finding these. I was really good at finding crappy companies to work for. Really good at it. I'm excellent at finding crappy companies. I'm awesome at it. That's what happened with me at that time. So I decided to commit to doing that one thing. I'm going to start syndicating deals. I had some experience, as I mentioned, doing the real estate thing, doing single family and small multifamily, and I started learning everything I could. And so that was about 4 years ago, and started doing my own deals. First, I took down my own multifamily, started partnering up with people, started talking to people, getting my name out there, started building a network, becoming educated in what I was doing, and preparing myself to be a syndicator. So up until this point now, over the last 28 months, I've been the general partner on about over $40 million of deals, about 700 units at this point. And I'm actually getting ready to take down one of the biggest deals of my life so far. It's going to be over $100 million deal in downtown Cleveland. So it's going to be massive, massive, massive deal that I'm doing with partners. We're putting the deal together, and it's going to be awesome. It's just going to be smoking deal, man.
I'm inspired on so many levels right now, but I want to temper that excitement and dig into a lot of stuff of what you just said. But I want you to take me back one step before this, okay? More like, call it 15 years before this. Who is Agostino growing up, and what in particular, what gift or gifts were you given? Some people might call it a superpower. I call it God-given talent, or certain strengths that we are all given. What was that one gift that he's given you? And in particular, how has that helped how you help others today?
Yeah. I was good at tech stuff. I was really good at figuring things out. That's why I did my undergrad in engineering. So I was always good at figuring things out, right? Somebody presents me a problem. I'm really good at solving a problem. That served me very well in my career as a C-level IT person, So typically you're faced with a technical or a business issue. I'm very good at figuring out a good solution that no one's ever thought of. I mean, and that's when I was working for that one company I told you about. It was bringing the whole different set of skills to a new industry that had no experience with. Like it was financial services. Up until that point, my financial services background was limited. I was doing a lot of manufacturing stuff, but they saw that I could figure stuff out just like that. So that's why they brought me on. I think between that and the fact that I've always been somewhat of a hard driving guy that doesn't want to give up. There's been points in my life when it came very, very close to giving it all up. That's a whole other podcast, man. I'll tell you that. But times in my life when things got really, really bad, but I didn't give up, and I ended up pushing through it. And that persistence is what's going to get you through the tough times, because life isn't always easy. I'm not saying that I got into this business because it's so easy and glamorous. It's not that at all. But you really have to be persistent. So those are probably the two things that I've got that I think I'm pretty good at. That's thank God I got those gifts, I'll tell you.
Absolutely. Problem solving, figuring things out that maybe other people couldn't figure out, and maybe thinking outside the box and really persevering, right? Which has got to be the character trait we all have, because you're right. Life is not easy, especially for entrepreneurs, especially for someone leaving a dependency on a W-2 corporation, C-level executive, and fighting that identity shift, walk us through that. And that conversation you mentioned you had with your friend, and your friend, enlightening you or sharing his experience. Walk us through that moment of that piece of it. And then second, when you said, okay, I'm burning the ships, I'm all in, or was it a gradual shift? Did you do the side hustle on the side with the after 5 p.m. you're working the side hustle, or the weekends? Walk us through that transition, not only like emotionally, but also like, practically. Like I gotta, maybe have family support, maybe have a certain income level you need to have. Walk us through that whole shift.
Yeah, sure. So I was working at this group in Indianapolis, and great company. The guy who hired me on, the president of the company, hired me on because, again, he saw that I was really good at figuring things out. I am a hard driving guy. I'll stay up 24 hours and I'll make sure the whole team stays up to solve a problem. So he needed that skill set in his company to help really get it over the hump, because it was an IT company and they're failing in a big way. And so I made the move from New York City to Indianapolis, built a lot of success working for this group. For them, I built a lot of success. And you know what? When something happens, when you're earning a ton of money, you get really lazy. And that's what happened to me. I mean, I was able to kick off leaving New York and going to Indianapolis. I was able to kick off some personal development stuff, but I wasn't quite there yet. I was still learning the business. I was still learning. I was still getting out of that whole 10 dark year scenario. And I ended up fast forward a couple of years. This guy who brought me on, he quits the company, and now there's a new guy that comes in. So for many listeners out there, when you're at the C level and you C-level CEO walks in the company, he wants to bring in his own guys. I'm out the door. So what do? Well, I leave Indianapolis. I go over to Michigan, start liquidating a bunch of properties that I had, and then I go to Virginia. And it's like I have the last of my portfolio in single family homes. And that's when I'm talking to my friend on the phone. I didn't know what I was going to do, man. Am I going to go back to IT? Am I going to do this real estate thing? I was thinking about maybe I should do this real estate, single family home stuff. Maybe I should look at that. Maybe I should do that. But then I look out the window of my car and I see this tall building. It's like maybe a 30 unit building or something like that. It wasn't that big, it's 30 units, tall building though. And he's a real estate attorney. I said, hey, who owns that building? Like who owns these things? He goes, what do you mean? People own them? Like, no, like, how do they do it? He tells me about this whole syndication thing. It's what's that? It explains. You're raising money from other people. They have equity in this new LLC that you create. You're operating the property. You're generating a return. You pay them a rate, and you refinance. You give them that money, and then of course throughout this whole time, you as the operator, you're making money too, and it's a win-win for everybody. And I'm like, well, I could do that. I mean, I can talk to people. I mean, I know how to raise money, to present business plans at the C level. So I'm accustomed to that. That's what I'm going to do. And it was a bit scary at first. We have the whisper of 10,000 generations every day in our heads, right? And what that means is that all of that programming that we had as humans, right, have been around, as humans been around for 60,000 years. 60,000 years ago, we were roaming forests and scurrying for food, and we were worried about saber-toothed tigers attacking us or something. That all that stuff is still in our brains, right? That's why we experience fear. Like, what is there to be afraid of, right? it isn't like a tiger is going to jump out of the corner and kill me or something like that. But yet all that programming is still in our heads, right? It's all still there. All of it is still there, right? And so it took a second to get over that fear. It took a second to really, I can either be afraid for the rest of my life. And I was in my 40s at the time, my early 40s. So I know that my time is limited, or I could believe in myself and double down on my own skill set and make a difference, and I chose to do that. That's what I chose to do. So when I decided that's what I was going to do, I started training. I had no idea where to get anything about syndication or any of this stuff. I just learned about as much real estate stuff as I could. I studied single family homes, multifamily, like small multifamily. I studied Carlton Sheets going back to the 70s. That guy had stuff out there. It was good material, how to finance certain deals. I mean, it all applies to the same stuff we do today in commercial deals, or most of it anyway. But it took refreshing myself with all that stuff, relearn all these different things that I'd forgotten, because I've been doing the whole corporate thing. And after that, I said, you know what? The next thing I do is the last thing I do for anybody else. So I did some research. I discovered that Ohio was the place to be to start buying real estate. It was still coming out of the recession. So I was in Virginia at the time. I literally packed up everything I owned into my Hummer and drove to Ohio, picked up a consulting gig while I worked on the business, right? Started networking, talking to people, getting in front of people, building up the network. The network is everything. You got to build a network. If you're going to build success, you have to have a network. Other people will help you get to where you want to be. If you demonstrate enough value, that's how they do it. And that's really how I got started. It was like overcoming that fear of failure, right? What is and at that point, up until that point, I've been through a lot of bad stuff and I was still alive, right? So I figured, you know what is the worst that could happen? What is the worst that could happen, right? That's what it was, man. That's what it was. And getting really, really, really good at sourcing deals, putting deals together. That's my, when it comes to the multifamily thing, that's what I do best, and that's the benefit that I bring to my partners, is that I can access and put deals together in my space that they just don't have access to. Not to say they can't do it. They certainly can, but they're not here. They're usually out of state or wherever. So it's coming up with a good solution to help my partners build wealth, and I get to build wealth with them. That's really what it comes down to.
I love all of that. Shifting from a mindset of being like a victim or a victim of circumstance, right? And a scarcity mindset. I know this is something I battle with over the years, right? That we're not our parents' generation. We're not our parents' generation. We're not forced into having to do these things. And you look up and you see, like for me, it's my grandmother. She didn't graduate from college, right? In fact, nobody did until my brother did. But she had to pave the way for her generation. She had to work 14-hour days to just put food on the table, raise 5 kids. She lost one of her kids to a brain tumor by 10 years old. Her husband was there for a while, and then he died. And you go, she paved the way so that my brother and I could go to college. So that what? Well, so that now we can go and maybe live a more abundant lifestyle. Not that she was living a victim lifestyle at all. She was absolutely doing it, but it's a different scarcity mindset to more of an abundant mindset, or a victim mindset to more of a, I'm going to be a leader and I'm going to determine based upon hard work, being humble and coachable and using the gifts I've been given, and have faith that I'm going to succeed rather than not, right? And stepping, I guess, through that fear and through that challenge. And I would imagine the fulfillment's really there now that you're on the other side of it. How does that feel, and how has that shifted some of your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, man. It's like, I think what happens is when we're doing the 40-hour thing, which is a fairly new phenomenon, by the way, the whole 40-hour concept was only started by Henry Ford. Prior to that, there was no such thing, right? This is all fairly new. Everything, the foundation of what you see today is new concept, right? And again, nothing wrong with it. I'm not hating on anybody that's doing it, right? But unfortunately, when you're in that regular routine, you kind of like become dependent on it, right? And that becomes the reality that you're living. And now it's like, okay, every 2 weeks you're given this allowance, this little box right here, this is this scarce thing that you just gave up 2 weeks of the life that you're never going to get back, right? And this is it. This is all you get. It's no wonder why there's the scarcity mindset is so prevalent. So it's like, okay, well, what am I going to do with this? Okay, I got to pay these bills. I got to put some money aside. I got to make the car payment. I got to put money aside for my kid. I got to do this, that, and the other. Okay, what's left? Not much, right? And then most people, that's how they live their lives. I did too. But then you have to ask yourself, is this the best I got? Is this the best I can do? And that's I had to ask myself that same question. Is this the best I can come up with? Of my entire life, is this it? Right? And when you realize that we have so much potential as individuals, we have so much that we can do, and we're just not, we're not trained, we're not geared that way by default. It takes work to put that together. That's what it does. And when you realize that it is attainable, it's not going to be easy, but it is definitely attainable. Then you can start living the life that you want to live. Because I'll tell you what, here's the thing. You're going to expire. We all have expiration dates, just like that milk in the fridge. We all have expiration dates. We're all going to die. And it's what we decide we're going to make our lives is up to us. It's up to no one else is going to do it for you. No one will ever do it for you. You're the only one on this planet that's 100% of your DNA. You're the only one that could make a difference. That's the long and short of it, man.
I love it. I love it. I love it. And so let's shift a little more to the tactical and the kind of what you're doing now. So with your experience, I'm really curious to just find out how in particular, our show is capital gains tax solutions. So we're helping people create and preserve more wealth through capital gains tax deferral, in particular investment real estate, but other vehicles as well. So for yours, it's investment real estate. Before the show, we were mentioning a couple things. Have you ever had any challenges with capital gains tax? And you're mentioning a deal that recently happened. Would you walk us through that deal and perhaps some of the challenges there that was facing both the buyer and the seller?
Sure. Well, you know what? When you're So there's a 148 unit deal in Cleveland here. And when you're looking at deals, when you're putting these deals together as a syndicator, right, which is what I do. And one of the things that we have to work through as a general partner, my partner and I, we have to really assess the deal itself, put the deal together, figure out the structure, figure out the business plan, the whole 9 yards. That's what we're doing, right? So for the limited partners, all they're doing, I shouldn't say all they're doing, but what they're doing is they're putting in the money to help us acquire the asset, right? But a big part of putting the deal together is assessing the seller. Is the seller for real, right? The same way they're assessing our ability to close, which we have proven that we can close. Every single deal we get under contract, we close. We've never flaked on a deal ever. We never will. So I won't say anything bad about the guy, but he's got some issues. All right, he's got some problems. I'll just leave it at that. And the thing is that one of these issues that he had was related to 1031 stuff. So we're supposed to close the deal a little bit earlier in the year, and it just kept getting pushed off for one reason or another. Not our fault. And here we are. Now we're in December. We're in the last 2 weeks of December, and the seller is still trying to push the deal off. And we're like, what is up with this guy, right? Like, why is he trying to do this? Like, what's going on, right? We had some 1031 money that had to get into the deal. So we had to close before the end of the year, before the end of 2019. We had to close, right? Otherwise, all of our investors would get screwed. Well, it turns out he had investors that had to close the same thing. They had to close by the end. They had to close by. Well, he wanted to push it off to January. I'm sorry. He was trying to push it off into January to realize tax benefit. Then we had to close it off before. So now we're at odds, right? He's trying to flake on the deal, and not flake on the deal. He's trying to push it off. He's trying to do as best he can, right? But fortunately, the way that we did it was we have a very good contract with very good attorneys that were able to enforce the agreement and get it closed on I think it was December the 28th or something like that.
And again, why was he trying to push it off?
Right.
Why was he trying to push it off? What was his motivation there?
Because they would have realized a capital gain or something like that by the end
in
of
the given year, right?
Yeah,
so he wanted to push it out to another year so he could delay it, because essentially then it's not going to be to the following tax return. So essentially you can earn interest on the money that you would have had to pay to the government earlier. Now he gets a whole year of keeping that before he has to pay it. Is that correct?
Exactly. So there's stuff like that, and that's why it's important, crazy important, to make sure you have a nice tight PSA. Make sure your attorney will draft language and protect you as the buyer against such things like this. Because what they'll do, it depends on the seller too. If the seller is somewhat difficult to deal with, they'll come up with reasons why they should postpone the deal, right? And you just got to be diligent and make sure your agreements are written so that can't happen. That's the key.
Excellent. And then the buyers, they were on their own 1031 as well. So they had some time, some 180 days to close, but 45 days to identify. And they're also pressured with getting this thing done.
Exactly. So we had to perform. We had to close it.
Mm-hmm.
So the seller wasn't happy, but c'est la vie, right? Got it done.
Yeah, exactly. And he needs to due to his word and due to the contract what he signed to do, not just out of preferences for himself. So yes, that is that is the pressure that the capital gains tax absolutely provides. And then curious too, Agostino, how do you and your clients either defer or eliminate or mitigate some capital gains tax? What's sort of your strategies going in and out of deals? Any wisdom you can share with our listeners here?
Yeah. I mean, the great thing about the kind of stuff that we're doing is our investor partners, they're just putting money into the deal and they get equity in the deal, right? So we'll do a refi. We'll basically get that money back to them, and or what typically happens though is that they leave their money in the deal. Say we go to sell a deal. So we buy a deal in year 1, we sell it in year 5. There's a big windfall of cash that would be coming to them. What they do, because they don't really need the money, this is an investment for them, we'll take that money and we'll roll it into the next one tax-free. That's the beautiful thing about doing this type of multifamily real estate thing. So, which is also a reason why if you're getting started in this business, there's plenty of that money out there. You just got to find it, right? So if you have an investor that has maybe they've already rolled this money 3 times and they're sitting on $500,000 in one deal that's going to be sold soon, you approach that investor and say, hey, listen, I'm trying to raise money for this deal over here. It's a great deal. Here's why. You make your pitch, you explain your return, what the structure is and all that. That investor gets to invest an entire $500,000 that they would have coming to them straight into that deal without getting taxed. They're looking for deals. They want to put their money into deals because they don't want to get that tax hit. They get that tax hit, 40-50% of it's gone to Uncle Sam for nothing. They don't want to do that. They'd rather take it, postpone the tax hit till they're later in life, right? Until they really need the money. That's what they want to do. There's plenty of that money out there. There's trillions of dollars sitting out there right now. The thing is though, other people have that money. And the only way you get your hands on that money is by networking and talking to people. It's the only way. And
curious, are you using a 1031 exchange? Are you using an opportunity zone? What's the vehicle you use to roll that when you say roll? Is it 1031?
Yeah, it's 1031. It's 1031 right now. Yeah. We are, there's a deal I'm working on right now. It's a huge deal in downtown Cleveland. It's going to be massive. It's going to be awesome. I'm very excited about it. Can't really share details about it right now, but that's an opportunity zone. However, because of the tax credit situation, we have a whole lot of other tax credits on this historical asset. The attorneys had to go and figure out, okay, is it worth doing OZ or not? And we've opted not to use OZ on this deal, but it's not to say that something won't happen in the future, but opportunity zone stuff could be.
Got it. And so you're going to form this entity and allow 1031 money to come into the entity. Is that like a tenant in common? Walk us through
Correct.
that.
Yeah, so it could be just 1031. It could be a TIC, a tenant in common as well. It just depends on what's going on specifically in their life, right? But usually it's just 1031 money that rolls in. Usually is what it is.
Excellent.
Yeah. So in that case, they own no more than 20% of the limited partner because that limitation, right? So even though someone may want to put in $500,000, for instance, well, in that deal, $500,000 would be fine. It's a big deal. But they technically can't own more than 20% because if they do, then they have to give up their personal information and they're going to be on the note, which is obviously what many limited partners don't want to do. They don't want to be on the note. They don't want to have to take on the additional responsibility, and they shouldn't. They shouldn't do that anyway.
Got it. So if they're doing 1031, they just can't be more than a 20% owner. Otherwise, then it creates another challenge. So you kind of got to fit that. But you also don't want it too small because maybe it's a little bit of a headache. So it's kind of that it's a little window there that you have to capture for it all to work out, like a puzzle piece.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it depends on the deal size, right? I mean, in this case, it's going to be a very big raise. We can't, to raise $100,000 at a time, that'll probably be the minimum. And typical deals that we do maybe 25,000, it depends on the deal size, right? Because just like you said, we're trying to keep the investor pool to a manageable size because every time we have a deal, we're managing the investors too, right? I don't mean managing in a bad way. It's about, we have to report to the investors. We have to meet with them. We have to talk to them, that kind of thing. And it's easier to deal with, like, say, 3 investors than it is to deal with 300 investors, right?
Makes perfect sense. So shifting a bit back to the educational part, you do the podcast now. and walk us through that. Now that you're probably interviewing others, you're doing your own research, your own shows. Walk us through some of the best tips or wisdom that you've learned for building wealth through real estate. Maybe the top 2 things that you would say, hey, these, I wish I would have known this 10 years ago.
Well, I mean, I'll tell you what. So we currently have 2 shows. We have 2 more shows on the horizon. We have the Bulletproof Cash Flow podcast, which we talk to other real estate people. It's centered. There's a lot of multifamily, the high degree of multifamily topic in there, but we also talk to people that are land investors that do investing and using 1031s, for instance. Maybe they do mobile home parks, but any type of cash flow related to real estate. We interview those folks. We have a second show where it's just multifamily. It's really nitty gritty, tactical information around how to get into multifamily and some of the mindset stuff that goes along with it. The multifamily mindset show. We have 2 other shows that are going to be coming out. One's going to be around property management, because I tell you, it's easy doing a deal, guys. Super easy. Running the deal for 10 years profitably, that's hard. That's hard stuff. All right. That's hard. So we have that one that's coming up, and we have another show on raising capital. So we're going to have 2 new shows coming on, possibly another one that's going to be exciting. I don't want to talk about that one just yet. We're still putting that one together. That's going to be great too. So we have a lot of stuff that going out there to really help people build what I'm going to tell you right now. That those 2 things that you just mentioned. Number 1, I should have started sooner. I should have listened to the original bug that was as a 9-year-old kid to go do my own thing, and I didn't. I ignored it. I should have been an entrepreneur, right? That's the first thing. Maybe it was computer stuff, but it's turned out that real estate was my true calling. It always has been. Real estate was my thing. My family's been building passive income with real estate since I was a kid, and I had no idea until I was an adult. Because we were living in a duplex. My parents were house hacking. So technically speaking, they were doing the very thing that most people are trying to do right now, right? But you know what, though? The second thing is the mindset. Without having the mindset, without setting yourself up in your head, you will never, ever, ever be successful. You have to decide to change your mind. And it's, again, that fear that drives us into not doing something. And the only way to overcome fear is to get the knowledge, to get the data. That's the only thing. I mean, if you think about it, so I don't know how many people have, say, jumped out of an airplane that might be listening, but I bet the very first time they did it, they were scared as hell, right? But once they do it a bunch of times, they're not so scared anymore. Like anything else that we do, right? We're always scared the first time. But once we know we've done it, we see that we're okay, doing it the second, third, fourth, the 100th time is easier, right? All that is done with mindset. All that is done with knowledge. And what I did was going back when, and many people do this too, after we're done school, again, being at a place where we want to be, we stop learning, right? Everyone stops learning. They put the pencils down. We stop. We're going to go get a job now. We're going to do this for the next 50 years till we die. That's usually the formula. But I had to recommit to lifelong learning. So now we also have a book club that's coming out soon too, where we're doing a book a week. We're either listening or reading a book a week. I just finished up Elon Musk, the story of Elon Musk, by Ashley Vance. That is a freaking awesome book. Only because you see this man who made $200 million after selling off PayPal, and almost coming this close to losing it all of it, by investing he went all in on these companies, and through good fortune, through sheer will, through threatening a lot of people, he's now a billionaire many times over, right? And he's changing the world.
So that would be your favorite book. We're going to move into our transition into our lightning round. So the favorite book right now to read, would you mention that one again for our listeners?
Yeah, it's Elon Musk, the story. I think it's Tesla, SpaceX, and it's by Ashley Vance. You could find it that way. Ashley
Vance, excellent.
Ashley Vance, yeah.
Good. Anything else you want to touch on that, or that was the last part on that comment?
Well, no, that's just the last book. I think the book that's going to change your life.
Yes.
The book that'll serve for many people, that's going to serve as the foundation for anyone listening is going to be On the Shortness of Life by Seneca, the Stoic philosopher. Okay, you listen to that book. It's a very short book. You apply its lessons, and you realize, just like I said, our clocks they're ticking right now.
Mm-hmm.
We're all going to die. Got to make it count. Got to make it count.
Excellent.
People are depending on you.
Absolutely. And how about favorite podcast you're listening to now?
Oh, Bulletproof Cash Flow by far, man.
Excellent. Just listening to yourself over and over again, or is it for the listeners who don't know, is it multiple people?
No, actually, there is a podcast. I actually listen to Grant Cardone, and there's another one. We Study Billionaires. It's probably my other favorite. My new favorite is We Study Billionaires. Excellent. And let's see, favorite athlete or inspirational, I guess, leader. It's got to be LeBron, right? I mean, Cleveland and all that.
I'm a huge LeBron lover. I'm from California, and some people are like, no. I'm like, hey, what? The guy is wonderful. A good family guy, amazing athlete, wins wherever he goes. Started 18, with some of the most high pressure stuff. Yeah, I'm a big LeBron fan, so I love that. Tell me, so I guess it would be Cleveland Browns fan, or it would be the Cleveland Indians. Who's a bigger team for you?
I don't know, man. I don't know about those two. If I had to choose one, I would have to say the Indians.
Just go Ohio State, right? Just go Buckeyes.
All right, yeah, there we go. OSU. Okay. I just threw that.
Right.
Yeah, there we go.
Just college football. Okay, right on. All right, hey, we're going to finish with our last question here, and then we'll be done with the show. Curious, how do you stay centered in your values, okay, and stay encouraged to charge forward to reach your goals?
Well, there's a lot of things. Every day I remind myself what my goals are, right? So I sit down, I journal every day, and then on the next page I write my I guess you can say I write my vision board. So I have a vision board, but I also write out what I'm going to be doing, right? I will have $200,000 a month in passive income, or I have, and I even will have. I currently have. I have a beautiful home in South America, overlooking the water. I have another home in Miami. I have a Cybertruck. My Cybertruck is rolling in right now. I wish I already pre-ordered, by the way, the Tesla Cybertruck. It's totally awesome. You should check it out. But I'm basically, what I'm doing is I'm predefining my day by building the vision. So I know what the hell I'm doing. Like why am I doing all this, right? So you define it all up front every day, right? That's one thing I do. On Sundays, I plan my whole week. And so any meetings I have, any kind of discussions, podcasts I might be on, whatever the case may be. But I think the biggest thing is, I watch who I let in my life. And that's probably one of the biggest things. I think many people, they just listen to anybody, they talk to anybody. And, I don't listen to a bunch of podcasts. I listen to 2, maybe 3, and even that is sparingly, because you have to watch what you listen to, because humans are actually quite easy to program, and you can either program it bad or you can program it good. I don't watch TV. I don't watch the news. I don't watch any of that stuff. I focus just on staying positive, staying optimistic as I can, and some days are tougher than others. I'll tell you that. But it's all around living life on purpose, living life the way that you want to live your life on purpose. That's what it is.
Love it. Hey, it's been a real pleasure getting to know you a little bit more and hearing your wisdom and inspiration here, Agostino. And I just want one last thing just to share. Remember to meet or how to connect with Agostino. Where are the best places to connect with you one more time for our listeners?
Yeah, bulletproofcashflow.com. We're also on Facebook. We have a Facebook group as well. Feel free to join the Facebook group. It's a private group. We also connect with me on LinkedIn. Facebook, I think I'm almost at 5,000, so chances are it's going to be tough, but LinkedIn thing is open. For anyone out there that's afraid of talking to people, or they're afraid to talk to brokers, raising capital, that might be a challenge for you. If you text the word freedom to 202-410-4500, 4202. I'll send you a free ebook, and you can take a look at that stuff too to really help kick off your career if you're just getting started. I think that might be, it's going to be a huge help for you. Those are two big things that people often tell me that's they're struggling at, and hopefully that helps your audience.
Excellent. Hey, I want to thank you for being on the show, Agostino, and also thank our listeners for listening to another episode of Capital Gains Tax Solutions podcast, where we believe having a clear plan to build wealth starts with a plan, but also with a good tax deferral strategy, such as a 1031 exchange or a deferred sales trust. So not having a plan is the enemy, but having one in place and ready to go is the best way to grow your wealth. Thanks again for listening, and I look forward to connecting to you on the next show. All right, that's a wrap.
We're done. All right. Good stuff. Awesome.
Thank you so much.
Awesome, man.
Such a pleasure and really inspirational.
Yeah, it turned out well.
And yeah, it's so true with so many of the points you hit, and they're so important to remind ourselves, right? To be intentional, to have a plan, to not have the scarcity mindset, and to not to be dependent upon someone else creating your vision for your future, but taking ownership of creating or making happen what you want your vision to be. And those affirmations are big. I think of the Hal Elrod. I read that book last year, and I try to practice that every morning with affirmations, with visualization, and memorizing. And I read the scripture in the Bible and such. Having all of that is just so. I mean, I'm just like, wow, where was this 5 years ago? I wish I would, or 10 years ago. I wish I would have known about this.
Yeah, I mean, well, it's like you said though, or like I said earlier, it's like after we're done school, we just like forget, or we just stop studying, man. We just stop. And I mean, looking at it now, I mean, it took me going through a lot of bad stuff that I want to get into in the show, but I mean, I saw some really bad stuff, man. I mean, there's times I had to question my own life, whether I want to stick around anymore. I put it to that way. It was bad. It got really bad. And that's the kind of stuff that saved my life, man. Saved my life.
You got to share that message more, because there's more people out there, right, that are struggling. I just had a buddy open up to me about that just a couple of weeks ago from high school. We went on a bachelor party, and he was just like talking about his, just this real deep depression, and finally being able to say it out loud that, yeah, I was depressed, he said, and I didn't know it, and then I had to get some outside help, and now he's on this journey. And but there's so many people who are struggling with that, even successful entrepreneurs who are doing great, and I think that's part of having a good community, having a good faith, and being vulnerable with those kind of things, rather than just trying to grit it out by yourself, right? And you're like,
yeah. Well, I'll tell you what, man. I mean, one thing I was on a podcast the other day, and it's funny because it wasn't about real estate. He had heard me somewhere, and he wanted to interview me about my journey. I'm like, okay, sure, So I'll touch on some of those bad thoughts, but he wanted to go deep on that stuff, right? So I'm like, all right, I guess I'll go deep on it. And yeah, man, when I was living in New York, it was hard, man. I mean, at that point, I'd just gone through a divorce. I was in a bad place, but money was scarce. This is right when it was during the 10 dark years. I was working in New York City. I was working on the 27th floor. Right above me was the roof. I could have gotten the elevator, just got on and just jumped off. And I considered that. I thought about it, and I mean, it got really bad. It did get really bad. So thankfully it didn't, and I mean, I think there's a lot of things involved, but I had to see my way through, and yeah, I did that, man. I mean, I'll never go to that place again, man. Never go in there again. And that's the whole scarcity thing. It was a very different mindset back then. Now it's no hold takes bar. Nothing will stop me from getting to my goal. I need $1 billion in assets. Once I close this deal, I'll be more than 15% there. 15% of $1 billion.
That's amazing, right? And I don't know where you started from, but I actually have a family originally from Akron, and a bunch of family still there. And we came over to California, but we had next to nothing. Parents were divorced when I was young. Dad, had all the money, didn't give any of the money to my mom. My mom, just scraped by raising us basically. And then, now I have some success, but looking back, you're going, oh my gosh, like from nothing to a lot. And now how do I help impact more people and leave this legacy, right? That's incredible. So $250 million. Okay, so you have to start thinking about estate tax. Okay, so you got to start considering those things. And when you're ready to talk, you gotta read what we do, because we literally can take all of it outside your taxable estate anytime you sell. So when you do this $100 million deal, imagine you sell it in 5 years for $200, $300 million, whatever it is. You're going to want to move all of that outside the taxable estate in one transaction. Okay, so be prepared for that, rather than trying to do gifting over the years, because it takes too long and it's too slow. That's cool, man. Congratulations. Way to go.
Yeah. Thanks, man. No, I started at zero, man. I started at -0. I had to raise the money to be broke.
Credit cards and debt. Wow, I'm battling through, right?
Oh, dude. Credit cards. I wish that were the only problem back then. Yeah.
For sure. I hear you. Well, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure. Let's stay connected. As soon as the Podicize people do all of their amazing work, you're my 21st episode. I haven't actually officially launched yet, so just be patient. I think they're gonna do an amazing job, and it's gonna launch, but it might take 40 days. You know what I mean? So, but we're gonna be rapid firing as hopefully in the next 30 days we'll be releasing everything. That makes sense.
So you're doing like a daily then? You're doing a daily podcast?
So I'm actually we're still going with that. So right now we're going to start with 5 episodes to launch, and then we're going to do one at a time, but we might quickly move to 2 per week or 1 per week, and then we might do two per week. So I'm new to this, right? So I'm kind of like what they tell me to do, because they're kind of my coaches on this, and I'm so new to it. But what do you think?
The more content you put out there, the more downloads you get, the more it helps you.
The snowball.
So that's my approach is different. I'm creating different shows for different purposes, right? So the other show that I'm going to be doing that I've not announced yet is going to be talking to athletes that have moved out of doing athletics and into real estate.
Oh, that's cool.
So I'm doing that with a friend of mine. Yeah. So that's going to be like a co-host type scenario. The property management thing is going to be another one. Raising money is going to be the other one. So they're going to have the main show. As all this is weekly. So I'm going to have this one, the main show. I'm going to have the multifamily mindset. I'm going to have property operations, raising capital, and the athlete one. So 5 days a week, we're going to be releasing stuff every single day.
You're a machine.
Not including all the other stuff that I'm going to be doing.
That's what I'm saying. You're a machine. Yeah, to even think about all of that. But I imagine you've already had your systems in place. You've already been doing your podcast for a while. So now you're just scaling that and shifting a little bit, but some similarities between all of them.
Yeah.
Ish? No?
Yeah, there is, but dude, if listen, I'm not full of myself, but without me, there's nothing, man. So I'm the engine with everything right now. So I'm the engine. I will literally upload stuff myself if I have to. I mean, that's what I do, man.
I love it. And are you monetizing the podcast too? Are you monetizing, or is it more so it's going to fund your other stuff?
Right now, we've been doing it for 3 years. I've not taken money on the podcast. I've not monetized it, but it has helped me get attention, and money follows attention. Right. So that's what it's done. Right. So it hasn't helped me directly with someone handing me money, which they've offered actually. I have emails right now. They want to like sponsor the show, and I've not followed up with them. Because in a way, I almost don't want to do it. I'm not crazy about it. I mean, I might do it because it's expensive to put together all this stuff, right?
Sure.
But at the same time, too, it's like I don't know. It's got to be a careful balance. If you don't totally agree with what it is that they're doing, or if you spot, you don't want to be caught in a place where they do something wrong and they get found out, and now you got to dig through the podcast and remove it or whatever. I don't know.
No, I hear you, man. And I was just curious because I'm starting out, and mine is not to, I don't want to make money on the podcast. I want the attention and the influence and really the education. And then that leads to everything else we do. So it's a whole new world. So thank you so much. I'll let you go now. I appreciate your time. Thank you so much. Pleasure to meet you. Let's stay connected. Okay.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely, man. All right. I'll talk to you soon.
Okay. Bye.
All right, bye.
Wow, what an amazing interview with Agostino Pintus, and just an inspirational story from somebody who really gets it. He's out there helping people. He's out there investing in real estate, out there, paving his path for his vision, for his life. So I hope you took some mini golden nuggets from that episode. Some of them here, just as a quick recap, start sooner, start now on your entrepreneur journey or your second business venture, whatever it might be. Go after that vision and don't let any kind of mindset hold you back. And that's really the key, fighting the fear or fighting the idea that you can't achieve your goals of what you're looking to do. You absolutely can, and it does start and end with your mindset and putting yourself in an environment where others are going to encourage you and hold you accountable for helping to reach some of your goals. Also, too, just the on the tactical part of capital gains tax, having a solution for a seller who perhaps maybe that seller for Agostino's deal, maybe he wanted to do the deal, he would have sold sooner or he would have sold for less had he not even have capital gains tax issues at all. So we run into sellers quite a bit who are selling a property. They think their only option is to pay the capital gains tax. And so they're looking for ways to delay the sale into the next year so they can at least get a little bit more time. Well, what if you eliminate all of that, and just say for the next 10 or 20 years or 30 years, you can continue to keep it deferred and continue to earn interest on it. And so digging into what is the seller selling and what is he facing for his challenges and how do we solve that? And the Deferred Sales Trust is a great solution for that, especially if the seller is not doing a 1031 exchange or, of course, is selling a business or a primary home and they don't have a 1031 option. This is where the Deferred Sales Trust is a great niche. And or for the other side of that transaction for Agostino with the buyer, right? The buyer may have been facing 180 days. In fact, I closed the deal just a couple of years ago, 15 units in Sacramento. It's about a $2 million property. And we closed on the 180th day, the last day we possibly could have closed. And if it wasn't for pushing really hard and a lot of stress for the last 14 days of that transaction, that whole deal would have blown up. I would have lost the listing, would have lost the buyer, but also people would have paid a lot of tax. But we had the Deferred Sales Trust as a backup plan, and that's why you should have the Deferred Sales Trust for every single deal that you're doing as at least an alternative or a backup plan consideration. So that's our offer to you. Reach out to us for that, and thank you. We'll talk to you on the next show.
You have just listened to another information-packed episode of Capital Gains Tax Solutions with Brett Swarts. We hope you enjoyed today's show and found it helpful. Visit capitalgainstaxsolutions.com to access the show notes and to access more resources. Don't forget to leave a review and join us again next time.